so much of my work as a therapist, as a mindset coach, and a healer is always like, yes, give grace, give grace, give grace. And even me to me, I have to remind myself that multiple times throughout the week, the day, right? To have grace on myself, to have a more compassionate lens over the life that I'm having and the choices that I'm making. And yes, give myself love, compassion, and grace. Welcome to Mindset Mastery Podcast, where we explore the intersections of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, and in each episode, we're diving into mindset, emotional regulation, and the real stories of mom entrepreneurs navigating both business and family life. Let's get into it. I was gonna say good morning. It is morning for me, but it might not be morning for you. Hello, and welcome to a solo podcast episode. It has been a while since I've done one of these, so I figured we would do so today. I was looking at my stats, and the most listened to recordings on this podcast tend to be those that are talking about case studies, and that I'm going into deep topics of healing. So we're going to do that. I'm recording this. It's end of January for me. I'm not sure when you're going to hear it, but it's winter. We're slowing down a lot these days. It's been a pretty cold one for most of the United States. And so I live, as you guys may or may not know, in the South. We actually had a pretty big snowfall a couple of days ago, which was exciting for me and the kiddos. Anyway, the gist of this, what I'm trying to get at is that it's been a winter, and a lot of times winter is seen as a time to slow down energetically, um, allow the body, the mind, and the heart to rest so that when spring arises, we are rejuvenated and we took all of our learnings from what we've gathered in the winter season and we implement it and we grow and evolve and change. So, I'm going to be talking about two case studies today on the topic of slowing down and the importance of it for your inner child and your healing journey. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this morning when I was doing a meditation, I used oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it right now. Something timer. It has like the sound bowl um as an icon for it. So sorry. I will link it in the show notes afterwards. It's free. I use the free version and it's absolutely amazing. I love it. Insight Timer. That's what the name of the app is called, Insight Timer. And so yes, I was doing that this morning before I was seeing my clients early in the morning, and the quote of the day alluded to that all human beings are naturally resistant to grace because of the change that it requires in order for you to be graceful towards yourself, right? And I thought, wow, so interesting. So much of my work as a therapist, as a mindset coach, and a healer is always like, yes, give grace, give grace, give grace. And even me to me, I have to remind myself that multiple times throughout the week, the day, right? To have grace on myself, to have a more compassionate lens over the life that I'm having and the choices that I'm making. And yes, give myself love, compassion, and grace. And so when I read that quote that humans are so resistant towards this, I thought, so interesting. And their reasoning behind it is because it requires change. And then a light bulb went off for me during a client call as we were, of course, talking about grace and honoring them for all the great growth that they've had in our time together um, throughout our therapy sessions. And so I had a client who was worried if their trauma would ever fully go away. Now, this is a case by case basis. In my time of being a therapist, and there's different levels of trauma, right? But I can say that for the most part, you have the ability to lower the day-to-day triggers that may be associated with your trauma. there is a day where should you be in some type of support container, whether it's with a therapist or a therapist and a um, psychiatrist, or you're in a group program of some sort or something, as long as you're doing something by led by a professional, a trauma certified professional that is able to support you um, in healing, you will notice that week by week, month by month, things get a little bit easier to manage. She said to me, my client said to me, I don't know. I've come to a couple, you know what? A couple of clients this week kind of alluded to this notion that we just have to accept that the trauma will always exist, and we are just simply going to have to cope with it over time. And there's a lot of truth to that statement. I can't deny that. It's not like you go to therapy or you do this one thing and your trauma goes away. In fact, you probably go to therapy, and the root awakening is that you learn that there's so much more work to be done before we can ever get to a point where this feels less jarring for us. You go to therapy and you find out that there are so many connected points to this one event that is now that we're playing catch up, or that we're connecting the dots from the moment it happened to all the other things that are happening in your life that are now also connected to that by association, that your body remembers. I always teach my clients a trigger is only a trigger because it reminds you of something of the past, or else it wouldn't be triggering. So if something negative happens to you and you feel triggered, emotionally triggered by this, and when I say emotion, everything is a spectrum. So when I say emotionally triggered, it's like a remembrance, right? The triggers that we speak about in PTSD are a little bit more severe, but it always it brings you back. It brings you back to the event, even if you don't recognize or remember the event, right? So for example, um, you could be, let's say, triggered by a coworker who said something, or a supervisor who said something really mean to you and didn't use the best wording or energy when it came to telling you that what you were doing was incorrect. But maybe that reminds you of your past some way, somehow. Maybe as a young child, you were always scolded or for things that you did not do. And so this one event could be very emotionally triggering for you. And if you're not doing the work, or if you're not aware, you may not know that it's stemming back to a moment of your past where, or maybe with an ex-partner or something of like some, it's only triggering because it reminds you of something of your past. The body is saying, oh my goodness, I have felt this way before, this feeling I don't like. And I have felt it before, so the body rejects it. The body can then go into avoidance. Then we have avoidant behaviors that follow. Maybe we don't want to go to work the next day. The body will go into maybe dissociation, where you're not even fully present in those times because it's too much for your body to handle at that time. And so, again, back to a triggering event, your life is a beautiful map of discovery, trying to figure out why we are the way we are, why we react to things in certain ways, why we behave in certain ways. And the only way to do that is to spend time with yourself. And I began this podcast episode with the notion of winter being a time to slow down. And yeah, I mean, listen, you can go to therapy all year round. I'm just talking about it now because we're in winter, and we tend to be indoors more often than not. And yes, we have the space, the capacity to just really sit with ourselves. And that notion within itself, if you remember, the pandemic, that's why everybody was kind of respectfully going a little crazy, because there was so much time to be spent with self. And for a lot of individuals, that's highly uncomfortable. But I really want to showcase in this episode why it's so necessary to spend time with yourself, and that the connections it can have to you, your past, and your future. So I have a client who is such a rock star. They are really good at what they do. Their work is phenomenal. They're getting paid very well for it. They're advancing heavily in their career, I would say at a very fast rate. And they're fairly young while doing this, right? And so I am their biggest cheerleader. I'm like, oh my God, you're doing phenomenal. And they're also simultaneously struggling with money mindset, money trauma. Feels like money is always escaping. Times feel a lot of things in their life are very anxiety producing to their perspective. And a lot of our work together has been on finding calmness, groundedness within. Um, you'll learn whether you're in therapy or maybe you've been following me for some time that everything in our life is from the views of our perspective. So I'm not saying that you could be bending the truth and things aren't what they say they are. They are, but you have to understand that the story that you tell yourself is your truth. It's your story. And you do get to depict how you tell those stories. So when I say that, I have to be very careful. That's not to say that if something really bad or traumatic happens, that you can just story your way out of it. But there is power in perspective. There is power in looking at the story and seeing giving yourself grace, seeing where things were truly out of your control and then what we get to do thereafter. That's the grand part of the story, that we do get to change how this affects us, how we choose to move forward, what this means for us, what is the work that we have to do to recover from this. That's all a part of your story. And so with this particular client, we talk a lot about anxiety treatment, money mindset. A lot of her anxieties lie within the realm of income and all of that jazz. And I remember one of our sessions, they told me, I don't have time. I don't have time to sit in this discomfort. I have work to get done. I don't have time to just think about why this is happening to me and how this is associated with my family and et cetera, et cetera. I just don't have the time. And in that moment, their anxiety was talking 1000%. Their anxiety was telling them that here someone is asking us to pause and we're not comfortable with that. Here someone is asking us to dig deeper and we're not comfortable with that. The ego is so smart. The body is so smart. It will do whatever it has to do to help you feel safe, even when the actions that it's choosing or that it's heavily persuading you to choose is not good for you, simply because it's been done out of habit. Right. And so you have to have a conscious awareness of, or a helper, right? Of like, hey, you tend to do this a lot. And I'm just curious as to why you are so resistant to pausing, so resistant to reflecting, so resistant to, oh, it's because there's so many other things that I have to get done right now. Well, if you speak to any anxious person, that's always the case. There's always something to be done. There's always something more important to do. And what I'm going to be bringing up here is the concept of inner child healing. I was talking to another client about how important it is to have connection with your inner child when you feel dysregulated. And what I mean by that is taking a moment to honor your inner child's feelings before you go into coaching, reconstructing, or any type of guidance. And the same rule applies for parents to children. When my children are doing something that maybe they shouldn't be doing, and I'm there to teach them that no, you don't do that, you do this instead, my messaging will go so much further if I first, before correcting, connect. If I first connect with my child and say, hey, are you feeling angry? Are you frustrated? What's going on? What are you feeling at this time? Oh, mommy, you know, they took my toy or she pushed me or he kicked me or whatever's going on, right? Oh, I don't want to go to bed right now. And so I will affirm their emotions to help them feel heard and seen first. And then I'm still a parent at the end of the day, so I have to follow through with what we're supposed to be doing, right? And so, yes, baby, I hear that you don't want to go to bed. I know you're not tired, and you really, 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 really want to play. And if I'm being super nice, I might, let's do 5 more minutes of playtime, and then we're gonna clean up and go to bed, right? But regardless, I'm helping them feel seen at first. Um, and then we go into reform or constructive criticism or teaching, right? And so the same has to happen for when you talk to your inner child, right? If your body is feeling dysregulated and your go-to method of fixing, of helping might be to push through, white knuckle through it, just keep pushing against the grain and just get over it. Maybe that's the way that you've been doing it for a long time. And oftentimes I have to ask people like, who taught you to do that way? Or what life circumstances allowed you or kind of made you respond to life stressors in that way? Was it because you lack support during some hard or traumatic incident and your caregivers or adult in that time were not there for you? And I'm not placing blame. Maybe you never told them. And even if you never told them, I'm still not placing blame on you. It's more of a curiosity of what happened. Why do you respond to life stressors this way? And why are you so against sitting down and spending time with yourself? Why is the notion of compassion, love, and grace so foreign to you? How long have you been acting in a way where you do the exact opposite when, truth be told, your inner child needs that most? And so I bring up inner child a lot because a lot of adults are like, well, I'm an adult. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. I just have to keep going. And it's like, yeah. But at one point, your adult self was a young person. And that's where most of our habits, our perspectives, our ideologies, our understanding of self is formed. And then it just follows you throughout your adulthood, right? And so you have to go back. And the reason why I'm talking in this episode, why it's so important for someone, anyone, everyone to spend time with themselves is because you're literally making up for past times. You're making up for the times in your past where you were young and a child and you weren't given the time and the space to reflect, understand what's going on, and then be supported through the follow-up actions of what we do now after said event has happened. We're literally making up for lost times. In a trauma training that I recently did for continuing education for my licensure, they were talking about how the biggest indicator of how deeply a trauma will sit with someone will how much time they will need to recover. Everyone is different. Everyone has like different bandwidths for certain things or different awareness for certain things. So it's truly a case by case basis. But a commonality is what, or a big differentiator, I should say, in someone who suffers from a traumatic event but then recovers thereafter is the support and community that was felt after said event. I work with a lot of moms, and a lot of moms have this big fear that I don't want my children to experience the same traumas that I have. I want to be the one that breaks generational trauma, and I don't want, and sometimes that leads into, those are all great things to want, right? And sometimes that leads into, I don't want my child to feel any pain at all. And I will kindly always remind individuals that that is one, impossible. And it's not healthy. The human body does have to experience some type of pain or discomfort or whatever, and of course, we're not going to set up their lives so that they experience these things, but it's just the notion that like things are going to happen. They're going to have a bad day at school, or the things are going to happen. And so instead of, yes, well, we will do our best to create a safe environment for our children, but also holding the reality that when something bad should happen or something uncomfortable should happen, the most important thing we can do is be a safe space for them to come to. Going back to the continuing education training that I had on trauma, the biggest differentiator in how someone will respond after a trauma is the support they get thereafter. Are they able to tell someone they trust and love what has happened to them without shame, without fear of how they're going to be seen? Or do they have an area where they feel welcome to talk about anything, no matter what it is, right? And then are they feeling supported thereafter? Is there a game plan of some sort? Is there at least a connection of, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry this happened to you. How are you feeling? And someone checking in, they're in after. That is the beauty of community. That is the beauty of having someone that you love and loves you, and you're able to do this for other people and hopefully have it done for you when you need it. The most detrimental thing is isolation, which unfortunately happens a lot when people experience traumas. So then you're stuck with thinking about all these things by yourself, or you're avoiding them completely. You're disassociating and you're just pushing it down. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this thing did happen to you. And so again, as adults, when we're in therapy and we're doing the work of remembering our past. There's a lot of the point isn't to re-trigger us and just talk about the past to make us sad. My job as a therapist is to help you connect the dots. And I don't want you to, I always say, I don't want you to stay stuck in the past. I just want us to, I need some type of details to then help you connect and then move forward. I don't want to just sulk in what happened in the past, but we have to know so we can understand why in today's day and age, when X thing happens, you tend to act this way. And when anxious individuals tell me that they don't have time for this, it's usually due to conditioning of your past. Either somebody taught you that emotions aren't important, you don't have time to sit on this, or life has taught you to believe that no one is going to listen, no one is going to care. I just have to push through this. I have more important things to handle. There are more important things in life. And to a little girl or boy, the message being received there is that your emotions don't matter. What happened to you didn't matter. Keep pushing. And logically, we know as adults that is obviously not the answer. But when you tell yourself that I don't have time for this, that's what your inner child is hearing. And your inner child exists within you every single day. I always tell my especially I mean everybody, I tell my clients that your inner child holds reign. You think maybe they're not important or that they don't hold a lot of weight. It's like, nah. All the emotions, all the tantrums, all the things that we feel is fully led by your inner child. You are the logical human being who'd sometimes make things harder. Why are we crying over this? Why am I sad over this? Why is it still bothering me? You're trying to logic your way out of it when what you need to do is feel. What you need to do is hold space. What you need to do is spend time with the inner child that lives within inside of you. In the beginning of my career as a therapist, I did a lot of work with families, and in doing so, I had my time where I got to spend a lot of time counseling children. And so we do a lot of trainings and stuff on like play therapy and stuff like that. The most important thing that a child wants with the people that they love is time. Time to be, time to talk, time to listen, time to play. That's what they want. Time, right? They don't need fancy things. They want time with somebody, with the people that they love. And you are that child. And so when you say that I don't have time to listen and sit with my own thoughts of an emotion, think about how a young child would respond to that. They must think they're not important. And then hello, then we could do a whole other episode on why we then feel unworthy, unworthy of love, unworthy of time, unworthy of attention, right? And that can lead to other disastrous behaviors growing up, depending on how you respond to that understanding or that notion that you are not important, right? And so you can see how this can easily bleed into so many other things, but the message within this podcast episode today is that it is so vital, necessary, and of grand importance for you to spend time with yourself. And now if you're someone who is like, I don't even know what the F I would do. What am I even going to think about? There's so much shit that has occurred. Where do I start? Then I would highly recommend you to seek a therapist. Highly recommend you to seek a trained professional to help you guide yourself through that, because I will say a lot of your body a lot of the times is trying to protect you and not remembering, because yeah, you might get re-triggered, and that's not going to be a happy feeling, and depending on how severe the trauma is, it could be detrimental. All right, and that's not to scare you, but I have to be honest and real, right? And so when you are retracing your past, it's and you feel like it's too much for you to do alone, which is why your body is disassociating or um of simply avoiding, is because they don't want to remember. Rightfully so, it's too scary. It's a lot. And so if you need help unpacking those things, then yes, seek a highly trained professional to help you get through that. Um, yeah, that is my message for today. Give yourself the time that maybe you were not given at an earlier stage of your life, and you will see how things change, right? That one client that I had that stated that they don't know if they're ever going to get over it, I had to lovingly remind them that they are literally getting better every session, even though it doesn't feel that way. And they recently did something so big for their inner child and they didn't even notice it. So sometimes a therapist is good for that too, showing you the progress that you're making when you feel like it's not getting any better. Because in reality, there are so many metrics that we're taking every session that will show you that, like, yeah, you are getting better. Look at this, it's happening, right? It's all about perspective. It's all about the story that you're telling. And I'm not lying. We can either tell the story that you're not getting better and things are still hard and you're never going to get over your trauma, or we can tell the story that look at this progress that you're making from session 1 to session 5 to session 7 to session 10. Look at the differences and where you are and how you responded to said incident. You weren't able to do that 5 sessions ago. That's progress. Yes, you're still feeling the pain of your trauma, but you're getting better. And the more that we keep at this, the better and better you will get. Right? So I'm sending you so much love, applause. Uh, if you are doing the work, whether you're with a therapist or not, if you're listening to this episode, you clearly have some type of inquiry or inkling to want to do something like this for yourself if you're not already doing it. So congratulations. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode was impactful. Um, I hope it's helpful. And I hope you are motivated to spend time with yourself. All right, you guys, that is all for me today. I want to do a quick solo episode in between my client calls. I had 30 minutes. I think I did a pretty good job of doing just that. Um, Friendly reminder, we are accepting clients at this time for traditional therapy. If you want more information, just email me below and we can set up a consultation call, a small little intake form to see if we're going to be a good fit for one another. But yes, if you're looking for therapy, let's rephrase that. If you're looking for therapy and you'd love to know what that looks like working with me, we have 2 spots open currently. Um, and I would love to see if we would be a good fit for one another. And this is something completely separate, but relatable, because everything that I do goes back to healing and all of that sort. Um, if you are a mom who's looking to build a business in 2025 and knows that you need not just a structure of a business model and someone to help you create a plan for your business, but you also know that you would heavily um, benefit from mindset coaching and things that mimic counseling so that your mind doesn't get in the way of and your fears don't get in the way of your success, then BBB might be the perfect option for you, where we carefully design this program to not only give you a blueprint of how to build your business, but also have immense emotional support for what you may experience in the creation and creating of a program or offer and putting it out there, and imposter syndrome and all that jazz. We cover all the mindset issues that may occur while building a business, while also teaching you straight business 101 strategies and effortlessly weaving that in with your motherhood journey. So yes, we are currently enrolling. Our first cohort is about to begin. We begin officially February 5th. If you are interested, now is the time to join. And so, yes, um, I hope this episode was amazing and everything you needed. I hope it was a nice, quick tap into something really, really important. Spend time with yourselves. Thank you for joining me on today's podcast. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me today on Mindset Mastery Podcast. I hope today's conversation inspired you to embrace your own journey of balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship. Remember, it's all about mastering your mindset to create a life of success and fulfillment in both areas. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more incredible moms just like you. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and mastering your mindset.